This session was recorded on June 25th, 2020.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Super excited to have you here to learn from our crazy cast of characters from ScreenBeam and I2E about how to leverage great wireless technology in your classroom for both remote learning and face-to-face instruction. With that, we're going to go ahead and do some introductions to our group. My name is Jen Morgan. I am the Senior Manager of Professional Learning with I2E, along with David Lopez and Megan Lipinski from ScreenBeam will be in the background, helping out with the Q&A session, as well as doing a little bit of the presentation. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to David and Megan to introduce themselves, and then each of the trainers will introduce themselves as it's their turn to present. David.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Lopez. I am the Senior Manager for Strategic Alliances for ScreenBeam, former educator here in Florida, Hillsborough County Schools, and also former MIE expert, MIE fellow, and did a lot of work with some of these folks. Jen and I worked together for a while as well, and I'm really excited about being here on the call with all of these great folks and educators, and looking forward to hearing what they have to share. We are very excited about the things that we're doing at ScreenBeam, and I'll let Megan introduce herself, and then we'll give a quick overview before we jump into some things with Seth.
Awesome. Thank you, David. Yeah, thank you all for joining us here today. So my name is Megan Lipinski. I am a former elementary teacher in Hillsborough County in Tampa, Florida, and former Microsoft Learning Consultant, and I am the Strategic Alliance Manager for ScreenBeam for EDU, and just really excited to hear from our I2E trainers and anyone else that is joining here today.
Yes. So one of the things that was mentioned to me by Jen to everybody is that some people aren't as familiar with ScreenBeam as we would like, and so I wanted to be able to do a quick just a quick preview of ScreenBeam. So I'm going to share my screen really quickly, and just to give a quick product overview, really not jump into the product, because really what we want this information, this call to be about, is about how wireless display is used in the classroom. And in this remote environment, I think there's some really interesting things you can do with it. And if we have some time, we'll talk about some of those things as well. But the ScreenBeam 1000 is our flagship product. It's fully cross-platform between Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Chrome, and Android. We've got some really great tools that are built into it. And what ScreenBeam is, and as you'll notice today, I think in some of this stuff, is that it's enhanced wireless display. It's not just about mirroring your screen. Because of some of the things that we've engineered into the device, because of some of the work that we've done even with Microsoft specifically in engineering this device, and also in the work we've done with other solutions as well, it really is a standout solution when it comes to wireless display and being able to use it in your classrooms, in the boardrooms, in the conference rooms at the schools. And we've really, developed some really great resources as we moved forward. Things like ghost inking, and that's brand new. Things like quick switch mode, which is also brand new. Things like multi-view mode, to be able to see, some of those things in the classroom. It's really easy to connect to ScreenBeam. It's all native connections. There's no software needed to be able to connect to it across any platform. The ghost inking I talked about, which is, I don't need to show this whole video, but the ability to have wireless touch while you're connected in a room, then not have to go and connect your cables. The ghost inking capabilities is also brand new. So we're excited about that being available. And then things like multi-view mode are also brand new, being able to share up to 4 screens at one time. And that's really exciting for us to be able to add in. So that's a quick product overview, quicker than I even normally do, because I really want to get into what some of the educators who are on the call, veteran educators, are doing with ScreenBeam, or are looking at how wireless display enhances the classroom experience. So, and we're going to start our first lightning round with Seth.
Howdy, everybody. My name is Seth Fuel, and I work as an educational technology specialist in Pearland ISD, which is in the Houston, Texas area. And I'm also a professional learning specialist for I2E. And I've been in education now for, I think this is going into my 17th year. So that's it's been a good long time. Never quite left school. And so to start off with my first slide, I wanted to talk just a little bit about agility, because that's we're talking about classroom agility with ScreenBeam. Agility really is the ability to move around or to move about quickly and easily. And so in the classroom, it means being swift and nimble and dexterous, and it allows for teachers to to carry their own liveliness into instruction without being tied to a particular location or particular device, something like that. And so, and that opens up the avenues of creativity and cleverness and adapting to different classroom situations. If you'll go to the next slide, a lot of the things that I could possibly talk about with classroom agility are going to be covered by the other specialists on the call as well. And so I don't want to steal any of their thunder, but with classroom agility, you're able to move around the classroom and be where you're needed at the time that you're needed. You can support, direct, redirect learning, etc., without disrupting the flow of your classroom and the flow of instruction. And you can really use this wireless connection with ScreenBeam. You can use that as in as many ways as you like. Obviously this teacher in the animated video here, she's directing. This is one of our teachers at Pearland High School. She's annotating over something on the screen so that all of the kids are able to see that and follow along, and she's right there with them. You could also use it as a second screen. So if you need to show we have videos and everything built into our curriculum. And so if you need to show that video, you can do that while you're still able to do whatever you need to do on your screen, on your device, using that as like in an extend mode kind of thing. Like David was showing just a little bit ago, it functions with interactivity or not. You don't have to do that. But the possibility is there, and that's a really great situation in our district as well. And by the way, I did fail to mention that, but in Pearland ISD, all of our teachers, every single one of our classrooms has a ScreenBeam connected to our interactive projector. So go on and go to the next slide. So while you connect wirelessly, there's no apps to install, there's no dongles, no wires, no anything. You just connect and you're able to move around the classrooms. And that puts you, like this picture, and this is one of my favorite pictures of all time, I love it. But that puts you in the classroom where the learning's happening, and you're able to really get in there and interact with your students and present in your style, completely untethered. Going to go to the next one. And that really makes the world your classroom. That's me presenting at TCEA in Austin this year. I bring my my ScreenBeam with me everywhere. So that it's just perfectly easy. There's a projector provided for you. I take it with me. I plug in. It's universal HDMI. So I plug it in. I'm allowed to go anywhere and everywhere and present the way that I need to present, and I can get out and engage with my audience, whether I'm in a classroom or a much bigger stage like TCA or something like that. And so with that, I believe, Mike, you are up next.
My name is Mike Call. I'm excited to be joining you from Woods Cross, Utah, just north of Salt Lake City. Over the past few years, I've worked in an elementary classroom, and I'm now at the secondary level. I'm an MIE expert and a global Minecraft mentor and an I2E learning specialist. And I'm excited to share with you some of the ways that ScreenBeam has helped me in my classroom with my teaching. You can go ahead to the next slide there. So first of all, ScreenBeam makes it allows you to turn any tablet, phone, or laptop into an automatic dock camera with all the functionality of traditional dock cameras. You can put it on a stand, and with your device's built-in camera, you're good to go. You can demo, you can share student work, you can provide feedback for your students. The difference with ScreenBeam though is that you can do so many other things with it. You no longer have to find your projector remote and try to switch back and forth between the dock camera and then your computer. You just on one device, you can quickly toggle between your camera app and any other program or website or video or digital tool that you want to use with your students. So it's pretty amazing that way. That functionality with taking screenshots and using inking tools, it just opens up all kinds of options for creativity in your teaching. And I'm excited to share some examples from my classroom about this in just a second. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So unlike dock cameras, or one of the things that the ScreenBeam does that just makes it even better, is you're no longer stuck in one spot. You pick up your device and you're on the go, and your dock camera just moves around with you. So you're no longer limited to just like doing worksheets or using a marker board with some dry erase markers. You can even hand over your device to a student and have them film you doing a demonstration somewhere in the classroom. So I know a lot of times in my classes, I've got kids working on projects that are messy or hard to transport around the room. And with your device, you can simply walk around, snap pictures of student work, and then you can save those for later discussion, or you can address things right away depending on the needs of your class and what's going on. It provides a lot of flexibility. Yeah, so you ready to go there on the next slide?
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead, Mike.
No, you were right on it. So one of the things that I love about ScreenBeam is that it allows me to step out of the spotlight at the front of the classroom and let students kind of take charge of their learning. Provide some great options for presenting content to students. But I think my favorite part is just that it lets me move around the classroom. I can monitor student learning and let their thinking and their work guide the classroom discussions. It's a great way for students to kind of show off their work, things that they're doing, and to use what they're doing to guide the classroom discussions and give them immediate feedback and help their learning move forward. So let me show you a few examples here from my class. So you can go ahead to the next slide there, Jen. So I love Minecraft, and this year we're going over perspective in a foundations drawing class, and it was really easy for me to kind of get on my laptop. I opened up Minecraft and had a little demonstration that we were going through, and then immediately I could just switch to my camera and show some student examples and do a drawing demonstration, and just back and forth, really flexible, really fast, really easy. So there's that. You can go ahead to the next slide. So on that project where students were doing their perspective drawings, as I was going around the class, I had one student who loves cars and wanted to take on the challenge of drawing something a little bit more complicated. And as I was looking around, I noticed that we hadn't talked about cylinders and how those are affected by perspective. And so his tires were a little bit off on that car drawing you see there on the left. And with my tablet, I was able to just snap a photo of his drawing, put it up on ScreenBeam, import it into my drawing app, and I could immediately teach a lesson just to address on how to use cylinders in a drawing. So really flexible, really fast, just let me improvise. It wasn't something I expected to need to go over in class, but with the functionality, just made it really simple to make some quick corrections and then help him with his drawing. So next slide. Some other examples here. I teach ceramics, which is a really popular class, which means that my classroom's usually really full, and it makes it hard to gather students around for demonstrations. But I hand off my tablet to a student, and at the wedging table, the pottery wheel, I can demonstrate, and students can stay in their seat and just watch on the screen while I'm giving some direct instruction or on things like that. The example there in the middle was kind of a fun opportunity. A student had come up with a really clever way to make sure that his lid to his ceramic box was fitting properly. And just really quickly, I could put my camera on him and have him explain to the class this cool technique that he'd figured out, and let him kind of show off what he'd discovered and really kind of validate his work in the classroom. And so I loved that. Next slide there. In my math classes, again, some things are just really hard to move around, and so had some students doing some great thinking. The image on the right there, some students using math manipulatives to think about fractions and subtracting, and we were able to just snap a photo of it, and then while the student explained what they were thinking, I was able to draw along with an inking tool right over the top of the photograph. In the other example there in the middle and on the left, students were in Minecraft building models of multiplication problems. You'll notice there's a small issue with the answer to the question and that he posted on his equation in the center slide there, but we were able to throw it up there on ScreenBeam, have a class discussion, and he was able to clarify his thinking and fix that problem. And it was just a fun way to engage the class and just bring their learning to life. So, and then this last example here, a lot of times in my class, I have a little warm up for the students when they come in, and every October there's a thing called Inktober where it's a social media thing. There's a word for a prompt for the day, and then students have to create a quick 5-10 minute drawing based on that word. In this example, the word was ghost for that day, and we got 3 really creative but very different examples of what students thought of when they thought of the word ghost. You've got the cell phone where someone's being ghosted, and a trick-or-treating dinosaur, and another example of more of a traditional ghost there. But I'm able to show student work, put it in front, help that. It allows me to let them inspire each other and guide student learning. So anyway, love using ScreenBeam in my classroom. Hopefully these are some helpful ideas for you, and I think Valentina is up next.
Great, thank you. Great to be here. I am a classics professor at Villanova University in Pennsylvania. I'm an MIE expert and an I2E professional learning specialist. I'm going to, next slide. I'm going to be talking about classroom agility and ScreenBeam and OneNote. So I have a sample class here, one of my undergraduate Roman archaeology classes. We use OneNote class notebook for our course materials and our classwork. So you can see a screenshot of my class notebook on this slide. The left-hand column is listing all the sections in my notebook with 2 primary areas. The collaboration space, I've got that circled in red, and a content library, which I've circled in purple. And the students also have notebook space for individual work that's not shown on this image. So in my class notebook content library, again circled in purple here, I put all of our course information. And within that space, I have sections for the syllabus, the schedule, and so forth. And you can see that the syllabus section is highlighted in gray, so that means we're in that section right now. And on the right, you can see the actual page with the course syllabus content. In the collaboration space, my students do group work, and I'll be explaining that in a minute. So by using ScreenBeam to untether my Microsoft Surface tablet during class, I can walk around the room to check in on the students as they're doing their group work, and also bring the class together by projecting whichever page I need in OneNote on the big screen in the room for everyone to see. Next slide. So in this slide, you see I've circled the OneNote class notebook collaboration space and all of its sections in red. Each week in this class, we work on a different topic or time period of Roman history, and I've got a section for each one. So I've got Republic, Augustus, and so forth. You can see that the Republic section is highlighted in gray, and that means we're in that section right now. And then in the second column, highlighted in the purple, those are all the pages within the Republic section. So during the week that we're working on the Republic, I assign a group of students to each page in that section. Each page has a Roman monument or a set of monuments, and then the student group works on researching the monument on their page. Next slide. So looking at this one page on the Forum Boarium temples, you can see I've got a table for the students to write in their names, and you can see the type of content that they added to the page. Info, maps, plans, photos of their monuments. And as the students are doing this group work, I can walk around the room and check in with each group. I can still, by using ScreenBeam to project my Surface tablet, I can still control what is being projected on the big screen in the room. So if one group has a question about something that might be useful to the whole class, I can just click on their page and the whole class can see it as I answer that question and help everybody out. Next slide. Sometimes there's a question that comes up that can be answered in some of the course material that I've posted in the OneNote class notebook content library. So again, right from wherever I'm standing in the room, projecting my Surface tablet with a ScreenBeam, I can just click on the appropriate page in the content library where I've got that information to help the students. I can say, hey guys, remember in the reference guide section of the content library, I've got a page on important dates and events, and I can point them to that page. Projected on the big screen. I can even annotate and highlight and circle things as I'm explaining things right on that page in OneNote. Next slide. So then once that question is answered, I can keep moving through groups of students, checking in on them. And once all of the students have finished their group work, I ask each group to present their research to the class. And again, I can be in the back of the room, just clicking on the appropriate page in OneNote to project it on the big screen with ScreenBeam, so that instead of me up in front of the class behind a podium, stuck behind there, I can have the students in the forefront highlighting themselves and their work. So I hope this gives you some good ideas on how to use ScreenBeam and OneNote in the classroom to interact with groups of students and then also bring them all together and highlight their work. So thanks a lot.
Nancy, it looks like you're up next.
Hi, I'm Nancy Nelson, and I am an instructional coach for technology in the Puyallup School District in Washington State, kind of near Tacoma, south of Seattle. I have been doing instructional coaching for 4 years, but before that, for a long time, I was a junior high and high school math teacher. And so it's that classroom experience that I use. I will say that even though I'm going to talk about inking specifically as an instructional coach, a lot of the time I go as a guest teacher in a classroom and pop in and teach them coding or how to use PowerPoint or something like that. And it's great when I can just walk in and connect instantly to either the screen or the TV in the teacher's classroom and right away be ready to present. I'm going to share my screen rather than go through slides, if that's okay. So I am using OneNote also, like Valentina did. It's a great tool to teach from with ScreenBeam, and my favorite feature is if you look in this upper right corner of OneNote, there's that angled arrow, and when I hit that arrow, it not only makes whatever my page is in the OneNote be full screen, it also puts the inking tools at the top. So it's as if this was designed for somebody who wanted to ink. And it's amazing how inking on something on a screen makes it so much more interesting and really helps kids focus their attention on what you want them to notice. So here I just have a picture of a document that I have on this page, and I've turned on my stylus, and if I were talking about the reasons and it's not working for some reason, try it one more time. It was working when I tested it 2 seconds ago. My district does, there we are. So I could say I want everyone to pay attention to this and make sure you think about this thing, and everyone needs to do that, and I want group A to work on this and group B to work on that. And by doing that, kids know exactly where I want them to be looking, what I want them to be focused on. At the same time, and especially in junior high, it's helpful that I can be standing next to somebody who focuses better when the teacher is standing right next to them and not worried about where I had to set up. This next page is a PowerPoint that I popped in here just because I didn't want to switch to PowerPoint also. But PowerPoint lets you ink while you're presenting too. And again, if you wanted to tell kids, okay, we're going to be working on math here and we're going to take a lunch break here, but tomorrow this period it changes. Just inking on it while you're talking about it really helps them focus on what's going on. Math, of course, is my favorite thing to talk about. And this is a great example. This is a 6th grade math lesson, and if I had this up on the screen for students, and this was a worksheet they were supposed to be completing, a couple things can happen if I'm untethered. One is I can be demonstrating a problem from anywhere in the classroom, but the other is I can hand my tablet computer to a student and ask them to demonstrate a problem. So if they needed to show me the area of shape B, they could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's 6 on this side and 6 on that side. So that's 36. And then the inside square is 3 by 3, so that's 9. And if I take away the whole, then I get that B is 27 square units. Kids love watching that inking develop on the screen. It's especially helpful with examples like this one here, where they're asking you to take the triangles from shape C and rearrange them to form shape D and to draw that picture in there. So I can see students having to really think about how they're going to do that. If they look at this angled line, that's a little bit tricky to draw. But again, this could become a collaborative thing where I say, all right, I want the first triangle from C put into this grid and hand my stylus and tablet to a student and have them do it. And then the class could talk about, is that a good starting point? Is that not a good starting point? So it's just really engaging for them to see the ink, and they love being the one who's shown on the screen. And the final example I thought about inking would be a mood meter, which is something lots of people are talking about with SEL right now. And you could have something like this in OneNote and ask each student to put a mark on the square that they feel represents how they feel that day, so that you would have a quick picture, if students did this as they walked in the room, of how all of your kids were feeling. And it could be up on the screen, even if you were standing by the door to collect the data. So it just opens up where you are in the classroom when you have that ScreenBeam connection, and you don't have to think about the only place I can put my teacher desk is here, because that's where my plugin is. I think we go back to David and Megan now.
Wow, that was awesome.
I know. I'm like, wow. I seriously, that was pure gold. Thank you all.
Yeah, I have a few questions, and I know we may have some people in the audience. I don't want to supersede those, but if there's any audience questions, I would love to field those. But if we have just a couple of minutes, I wrote down a few things that I think would be important for people to hear. From the first one was from Seth, and I was seeing that, and this might go to all of you guys. All of you guys have seems like you're using tablets or some sort of tablet device. The video you showed of the high school teacher using a tablet and a stylus. Do you feel like you guys get more out of, and I think I know the answer to the question, that's why I'm asking it, but do you get better return on your investment from your tablet devices that your teachers have because you're using wireless display using ScreenBeam? Would you say that's a definite yes?
I would say that's a definite yes. With our tablets, part of the situation and part of why we wanted to have that was because of the flexibility in the classroom. With a tablet that can do everything that a desktop computer could do, then we're able to move around and go wherever we need to in the classroom. That's essential.
Yeah, I think that's right. For all of you who are on the call, we didn't plan much for this call. It was kind of like, we're going to get these teachers on and we're going to let them talk. And that's why when I said, wow, it was really genuine, because I wasn't sure what everybody was going to say. But I was really excited to hear some of the things. To Mike, one of the things that you did that I thought was really unique was capturing that content on the spot, but not only sharing it with everybody, but then grabbing that and being able to do that as a formative assessment, right? Is that something that, that's a really big deal, being able to say, okay, I'm walking around the room, I'm looking at this art project, I want to do a quick capture, and then later on I can take quick notes for a formative assessment. That's really powerful. I really wanted to point that out, but you did a great job giving those examples. Is that something that you use for formative assessments as well?
Very consistently. I love to let student learning I let the students feed off each other, and those moments of reflection at the end of a lesson. So they've done something, they've worked on something. The real learning happens at the end of class when they have a chance to reflect and share and learn from each other. So, and I wonder, can I say something else about the question Seth just answered?
Yeah.
And maybe this is related or not, but I love the way you talk about tablets, but as an art teacher, I'm using several different devices, and the fact that ScreenBeam can work with my phone. I have a Samsung phone with a sketchbook app on it. I have my iPad in there. I've got my Surface. And the fact that it works with all of those allows me a lot more flexibility. So no matter what device I have, no matter where I'm at in the classroom, I can quickly put that up and just, it's so quick and so flexible. I love that.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. I had like a bunch more stuff I wanted to talk to you about, but I don't know if Megan, I missed anything from his, but I was really like, I wrote down, wow, I loved all the things that you had on there.
say in addition to that, like, with us being cross-platform, it really doesn't, limit you for having to run up to the front to, connect the Windows 10 or, with another device. You're able to just, quickly sync and share that where you're not losing instructional time. And when you're using multiple platforms and different, avenues like sketchbooks and whatnot. So I think that was really, really cool to showcase.
Yeah. And that idea of stepping out of the spotlight is really something that, even if your students don't have devices, you could hand your device off and do that. And I know in this environment working in, a lot of that's changing and shifting, hopefully not for the long term. But, we also think about that with students being able to just share their screens and being, okay, now it's your turn to share without having to come up to the front of the room. We've got tools called Classroom Commander, which I don't know if anybody uses that here. I know Megan used it in her classroom, but Classroom Commander now is available for all Windows 10 one-to-one devices. It's available for Chromebook one-to-one solutions. And one of the cool things that we have is that it's available. Classroom Commander allows all your students to use wireless display. Even if your teacher has a Windows 10 device and the student has Chromebook, they can still see all the students' devices and then orchestrate which student is sharing at what time. And that's really cool piece of this. Valentina, one of the things that I loved the idea that you talked about as a college, as a university, a professor in a university, is that idea to have that agility while you're lecturing. Do you find, if you're doing that, is that something that you feel like is a unique thing that you do or that you would like to do that you see being unique to a lot of university professors, is getting out amongst the class, and that does affect your students? Do you think that really affects your students if you're out there as opposed to always being in the front of the room?
Yeah, hey, it affected me when I was a student. I remember I started out as a history major, and I had a professor who just stood at that podium and just lectured, and everybody fell asleep. So,
yeah.
I switched my major to some more exciting professors and got into classical studies. And so, yeah, I mean, my class is not about what I have to say. My class is about my students actively participating and getting involved and having them learn while they're in class and learn with each other. So I love that classroom agility allows me to do that.
Yeah. And the last question I have, or like comment on Nancy, is the the fact that you're capturing. One of the things, two things, I guess, was being able to take OneNote, and I know several of you guys showed OneNote, Valentina and Nancy did, but the fact that you can open up your camera in OneNote and just capture even a document on the fly, and then automatically start inking on that document while you're walking around the room. That's a really powerful thing, and I wanted to point that out, that we're not only just grabbing the camera, but also using camera in OneNote. But then one of the things that you said is that really lit up something that I talk about, is inking in PowerPoint and taking that to the next level. Would you all agree, and I don't have to give me like a voice answer, but would you all agree that if you just use PowerPoint by itself and you're just showing PowerPoint, do you guys see that? I'm not talking about even inking on it. I'm just talking about just using a PowerPoint slide deck. Do you guys see that as more of a real low level on the rubric, if you will, of use of technology in the classroom? Just PowerPoint, that's all I'm using. Is that on a low level, would you say?
It's not as engaging as doing something like inking and moving through it.
Yeah. So if I just use PowerPoint, that's fine. And that's an introductory to technology if you have a teacher that's just getting used to it. But then all of a sudden, when you start writing on the PowerPoint, like Nancy said, all of a sudden PowerPoint jumps to the top, to the higher level, because now I'm walking around the room using PowerPoint, and the students' eyes are having to focus in different places. Their ears are definitely changing into how they're listening to you. And that's a perfect example. I really loved how you pointed that out. That just inking on PowerPoint while you're moving around the room makes a huge difference. So that was awesome. Thank you guys. That was really great.
So we had a couple people who made some comments in the chat window, and I those of you that are using these in your school, like school district wide, maybe you can help answer this. So there's been some objections to some of this wireless technology, as far as like the writing not being as precise. And I think that really has to depend on the type of device that you're inking on and the type of stylus and things like that. Would you agree with that?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say that, while the writing may not be as precise, and that's, debatable, I'm sure we could look at some research for that, but I also don't think it's a long-term limitation. I think that the more you use it, just like you use, like it took everybody a long time to get used to holding a pen, right? So it's going to be the same thing with a device as well. It's going to be a learning process. But then, the thing that I was thinking about reading that comment was that, having, and we have interactive projectors in our rooms as well, but having that shifts the focus to the front, and it's very teacher centered. And when you're talking about empowering students, you really want the students to have the device and to be able to work in their comfort area, and yet everybody be able to see and learn along with them, which ScreenBeam allows you to do. So,
right, for sure. So, all right. And then the other side of that is the reluctance. And David, you kind of mentioned this, and I think a lot of it kind of now our thinking is with COVID and handing devices, between teachers and students and so on. Obviously, for health reasons, that probably doesn't make a lot of sense right now. But have you guys had any experience with teachers being reluctant to hand a device over to a student? I mean, Mike, you certainly address this I know you do this with your students. You hand your device to your students and be like, here, hold this while I model how to do something. But what about our teachers who teach maybe littles who maybe their hand-eye coordination or their dexterity isn't quite as good? Have you seen teachers be reluctant to do that? Or has it just been like, hey, we're just going with this because it's super cool and meeting kids where they are?
My experience with the inking is that a lot of teachers who say they don't like inking on their screen are still trying to ink on it while it's set up like a laptop. So they're writing on this vertical surface. And of course, their handwriting comes out terrible and they feel like it looks bad. But as soon as they lay it flat or use it like a tablet, all of a sudden they can write just like they can on paper. And it just doesn't occur to them because they're thinking laptop. So even when they have a tablet. So that is one of the inking issues that I've been able to fix for people pretty easily.
So just creating some awareness. I think that's big. We're not used to our tablets flipping over and turning into a writing tool. So Seth, what about you with your district, since you're all up?
The inking really, it just opens up a lot of different possibilities, because when you're able with a tool like OneNote, something like that, you can switch between text and ink fluidly, and it's really a simple and easy thing to do. So I think it's more than just the plain old traditional that we've had forever.
Yeah, for sure. Great, thank you guys. Hey David, there was and Megan, there was another question that came up in the chat window. Did we hear you all correctly that ScreenBeam is multi-platform, so Apple, Chrome, and Windows?
Yes. Yes. So we offer all of those on an enterprise level. And for those of you who are thinking, well, that's the same as Apple TV, it's the same as other ones, it's really not the same, because we are doing this on an enterprise level, in that the device is meant for to be used and managed in an enterprise environment, which all schools are. You can manage them, update the firmware. We even offer on our devices, it's a digital signage player now. The newest devices, you can use it as a digital signage player. You can use it as, obviously the interaction with Windows 10 is much different than what you get with any other device out there, as far as the wireless touch capabilities. The other things that we're talking about in these environments that we're currently in is the pop-up meetings or pop-up classrooms, or using classroom spaces for classrooms that aren't necessarily always been classrooms before or haven't been classrooms before. So I could wheel a big screen into a larger area, throw a ScreenBeam on it, connect, and have a stand-up, socially distanced class, and then wheel that screen out, or even just a meeting, and wheel that screen out, and I'm done. I don't have to drag a bunch of cables, a bunch of wires, or a bunch of anything to set up, and it gives me some flexibility to do that with our newest platform that does allow you to do, and that's the 1000 EDU that I showed at the at the beginning of the webinar here. So if you didn't catch the beginning, you can go back and get a quick view of it. But yeah, I mean, we definitely work with all platforms, and still on all platforms, we don't require you to download an app to work. It's just the native connection, and even with Apple and Chrome, which again nobody else does, you don't even have to have a network connection to work with Apple and Chrome. And there's a secret to that, and that's because we have a built-in kind of hotspot to our device that even if you lose your internet connection, let's say you have your iPhone and you want to connect really quickly, you don't have to go over your network. You can actually connect directly to the ScreenBeam as a Wi-Fi connection and still share your screen. So there's some really interesting things that we've done that really nobody else can do, and we're very excited about where we look in the future of some of this. So
perfect. Awesome. So David, one other on that, it's kind of along those same lines. One of our participants said that their school has gone to Dell laptops for both teachers and students, so they don't feel like they're as mobile as they could be with a tablet. But I'm guessing experience says it doesn't really matter what type of device you have. I mean, other than desktop, obviously, but like a laptop or a tablet, you still can leverage the power of ScreenBeam in sharing your display, so students can sit at their desk and screen share what they've got on their computer up for the whole class to see, correct?
Yes, Megan I'll let Megan talk to that, because Megan used that, and she did have a Surface, but I think Megan, at some point you used it with just a laptop too as well, right? As far as Classroom Commander.
Yes, so I was able to use, I had a Windows 10 Surface, and then I also had a Dell laptop, and then I was able to connect. I think I had 25 at one time, being able to connect and see their screens. I had it set up so that it would take pictures every few seconds, and then I was able to use those screenshots for formative assessments, put them in OneNote, things like that. Another really cool thing too, with Classroom Commander, you're able to send out like if you wanted them all to get on Teams or wanted them all on OneNote all at the same time, you're able to do that as well, where you can just, with the click of a button, be able to do that. And that really helped me because in my classroom, it was, flexible seating. Students were sitting in bins, sitting in bean bags, sitting on the floor, wherever. And as you know, with elementary, if you're trying to see what's going on, not just on the screen, but making sure that they're on task. And instead of me having to run around, and I'm left-handed and clumsy anyway, but Classroom Commander really helped me to not only see what they were doing, but be able to highlight what they're doing in real time.
Yeah, and this is a picture of what Classroom Commander looks like. It still allows the teacher to have wireless connection. And the other thing, but also that allows the students, and this is what's different than ScreenBeam than other solutions, is that it's about wireless display, right? So, and that's a great answer, Megan, about the idea with the tablets, even if you have a clamshell device, one of the things that Valentina mentioned is that just getting out and being with your students, even if you're holding a laptop, one of the things examples that I used with when I talk about this in the classroom is, let's say I'm using extended screen mode, right? So some of you talked about that. I think Seth or Mike talked about that. I can do extended screen where I've got my screen in front of me, and then I've got my display, like I've got a display behind me here. I can be sitting greeting students with my laptop at a podium while they're coming in the door, and I could be greeting them. I could be running a PowerPoint on one screen, on the big screen, and I could be taking attendance or checking my email or doing something while the students are coming in. And it gives me that flexibility, even if I'm just using a tablet or a laptop. That flexibility and that agility, that classroom agility, is really valuable, because I think even Nancy said it doesn't matter where my desk is. I can put my desk wherever I want. I can set up. One of our teachers in Florida here, she teaches in Pinellas County. She said she has her desk in a different place every day when her students come in, or every week, and that's really, she finds a lot of value in that. So,
and that's too, going back onto that, David. So like for me, I taught language arts. So I always had some sort of PowerPoint or Sway on that extended screen mode so that they knew what they were supposed to be doing. And, you know, I had my rotations on there. And then I could also meet with a small group in the other side of the room and then be able to utilize my device that way while my other students were still working and knew what they were doing up on the front. So it really, you know, was awesome. But then also here, when David's showing you clicking through, like if you have students that are maybe on something that they shouldn't be on, you have the ability just to click their thumbnail and to silence their screens, or if you want to call all of their attention instead of having them shut down their screens or flip it over, you're able to select what thumbnails you want, and then they also will be able to shut down. So it completely locks the keyboard and the screen, so there's no functionality there, and then with just another click, then they can get back to what they were working on.
Yeah, that's awesome. So
awesome. Wow. Okay, so I'm super excited about all of this. I've learned a few. I thought I was a ScreenBeam expert. I am designated a ScreenBeam expert, and I have learned some amazing things today.
We hope you've learned a few fun things today from our cast of amazing characters at ScreenBeam and I2E. Thanks so much for joining us, and have a wonderful school year.